Welcome back to Scrap Cooking. We're back here in our beautiful Urban Element kitchen, and we have one more special episode for Beechwood area in Ottawa, which is near and dear to my heart because I owned a restaurant called Beechwood Gastropub there. It is no more, but that's okay. I learned a lot. And so we are highlighting some of the beautiful, wonderful businesses of Beechwood. So we have this gorgeous spread over here. And so we've got veggies, organic veggies from the Buzz. And I've got these beautiful scones from the Scone Witch and some condiments from the Scone Witch as well. We went to Jacobson's, which has a ridiculously amazing selection of cheeses. So we've got a couple cheeses and some other condiments, as well as we picked up some of these pretzels from Nat's Bread that they sell there. And then the pièce de résistance is this gorgeous piece of meat from Mucklestones and Brockwell, an amazing butcher. And they have this really incredible beef from Pinokian Hills Farm, where they pasture the cows from calf to finish, and they have an abattoir on site, and they finish them on barley and peas. They eat grass most of their lives, and right at the end they get fed barley and peas, so you get a little bit more of that marbling that we're used to with corn-fed beef. But you just get this amazing piece of beef, and it is quite a piece of beef. So this is a T-bone. So on the one side of the bone we've got the strip loin, and on the other side of the bone we've got the tenderloin. And it is amazing. And this is a bit of a baller piece of beef. So we are gonna eat well today. But so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a really simple salad. We're gonna sear this baby up. And we're gonna cook some mushrooms, some shallots and garlic in the juices and the fond that's in the pan after we remove the steak. And then after, we're going to have some wonderful desserts from the Red Door Provisions. And then with the scones from the Scone Witch, we're gonna make some leftover sandwiches, because I don't think I can eat all of that in one sitting, even if I tried. However, we'll have awesome sandwiches with some of these fun spreads that we've got. And so let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do, especially because it's such a large piece of meat, is we're gonna salt it and then we're gonna let it rest. So this is about 2 inches, and the beef needs to be salted about an hour per inch. So we're gonna salt this, we're just gonna salt it. So I've patted it dry with paper towels first, and then we are going to apply some salt pretty liberally. So what this salt does is kind of what's called a dry brine. So salt is gonna pull the water that's within the meat out, and then it's gonna kind of mingle with the salt, and then it's gonna kind of seep back into the beef, seasoning the meat. So we're gonna get that nice and rubbed. We're gonna flip it over. And we're also not gonna forget our sides. At this point, I usually kind of try to pick up the excess salt that's kind of fallen on the side. There we go. So I'm gonna take it off the paper towel. And I'm just gonna put that in the fridge. While our meat is in the fridge, we're gonna cut up all the rest of our veggies and have them ready to go. So, what are we gonna do first? Let's cut up our garlic and our shallots. So for our little shallots, we're gonna cut the top and the bottom off, and we're gonna cut it in half. We're gonna do that to all of them. Now we're not gonna get rid of any of this trim because we've got a stockpile going on. So I'm gonna put them in here and then I'm gonna peel the shallots. I find it easier to peel them if they're cut in half. And we are just gonna cut them, just julienne them. Not too thin, we don't want them to melt away. We want some bite to them. Now our garlic, we're gonna take, maybe 3 cloves. Well, this 1 clove is the size of 2, so we'll count it as 2. Oh, this one as well. All right, and then we'll put this garlic back to use at another time. But we're gonna tuck this little guy into our stockpile. So we're gonna cut the bottom off, and I don't cut all the way through the bottom. I just kind of peel it. It'll help you peel it after. Same thing, you kind of can feel when it, when you get to the outside skin, and you can just sort of peel it that way. So I'm gonna put all my little garlic pieces into its own little bowl, because in the freezer I have a liter or deli container that is full of garlic scraps, just like that, tops and bottoms and the skin, only if they're clean, because on another episode we're gonna make garlic broth that we can then use for a risotto. So we're not wasting anything. So we're just gonna chop up this garlic, just slicing it fairly thin. I usually take a couple slices out of it and then tip it so that it's a bit more stable. All right, now we are going to cut our peppers, which we are also going to saute with our shallots and garlic. But we're gonna cut the top and the bottom off. We're gonna set them aside. I'm gonna do the same. Now I'm gonna pop this stem out of them both, and that's gonna go in the compost, but these we're gonna cut up and use in our salad. And these guys we're going to cut in julienne so that they go with our shallots and garlic. So I like to cut the side off and then follow around the little white bits in the middle. They're quite bitter, so we usually take them out. Now you can do everything that we're doing today either in a pan like I'm doing here, or you can do it on the grill. So if I was doing it on the grill, I would cut everything in about this size, because when you cook it, it will let go of some of the water that's inside and kind of shrink a little bit. So you don't want it to be too thin to fall through your grill. And I've lost many a pepper this way. You can also cut them into triangles like that. But for what we're doing on the inside, if you aren't lucky enough to have a barbecue, we're just gonna cut it nice and small. There's not a lot of veggies I personally like to eat raw, but peppers are quite up there. All right, so we got our julienne peppers, and now we're just gonna cut some bigger chunks of the tops and the bottoms for our salad. I've got this lovely huge bowl. I'm gonna put our salad peppers in there. And now we're gonna cut these lovely cherry tomatoes. Woo! And we're also gonna put them, so I like to cut them a little bit differently. I like to cut them on an angle. So the top and bottom is here, and I'm gonna go like this. Tomatoes in the bowl. It's very important that you wipe your knife clean after every time you do something acidic, like lemon or tomatoes. So you don't want your knife to oxidize, get little marks on it. Yeah, rust, depending on the type of metal. All right, so cucumber. We don't need the whole cucumber, so I'm just gonna cut half, and I'm gonna save this for later. And then this guy, I'm just that little guy. We're just gonna cut him in half. Just cut him on an angle. Cucumbers in the bowl. So now we are gonna make the base for our vinaigrette. So I've got a beautiful organic lemon, and I've got this zester, which, as you'll know from watching other episodes, that if you don't have a zester at home, you can use the small side of the grater. Just being careful not to put too much pressure on it, because you don't want to go into the white part of the skin, which is bitter. It's called the pith. So we're gonna get that nice lemon, because all the oils that give you the lemon flavor, the essential oils, are all in the skin. Cut it in 3, and now I'm gonna pop out the seeds. Squeeze it out. This is always where you find out whether you have little cuts on your hand. All right, so we are going to take this maple mustard. I'm gonna say about 2.5 tablespoons. Chef pinch of salt. And we're just gonna mix it up. And then we're gonna put it aside. Oh, there's one more thing. Haha! The mushrooms. I knew there was something else. They were hiding. It's lovely organic mushrooms. Now, mushrooms are, their flavor is water soluble. So rinsing them sometimes, or at least how I was taught, was that if you wash your mushrooms, then you kind of lose a little bit of the flavor. So I was taught to take a clean tea towel and take off the excess, any of the little dirt bits that are hanging out. I am removing all of the dirt. It's gonna stay in my tea towel. I just put the mushroom, hold it with one hand, and then kind of just pull it off with the other hand, and then go around the base of the cap and then the stem. Okay, so now you can cut them with the knife if you want. I actually just like to rip them. You take the stem out. The stem is edible. You can just break it up. I actually find it goes a lot faster. Some stems I like to keep and make mushroom gravy or mushroom broth out of. So sometimes I will just take the stems up and then set them aside and kind of keep a mushroom stockpile. And then when I've got enough mushroom stems, then I'll make a soup or a stock or a broth or a gravy with them. All right, there we go. Oh, we're just gonna put our mushrooms in this bowl. Now, I've preheated the oven to 400 on convection. So if you don't have a convection oven, that's okay. You can put it on 450. Convection ovens will actually increase the temperature of the oven because they're forcing the air to move. So it's actually hotter. So I've got it at 400 on convection, so it's really about 425 to 450. It also depends on your oven. My oven at home is so hot. I have to set it to like 325 for it to be like 400. But most home ovens that I've ever encountered are cool. And so whenever I set it to a temperature, I'm like, that's not the temperature I'm used to. So I will often put it higher. So you want it to be hot. You want the oven to be hot. You want it hotter than for baking and hotter for roasting a chicken, because we're gonna be searing the steak in this pan, and then we're gonna throw it in the oven to finish it. So we've waited 2 hours for our steak, so it's nice and dry brine, salted. So I'm gonna go get it, and we are gonna turn oh yes, we won't forget. Gonna turn our burner on. This pan, if you're doing it inside your house, you're gonna want a pan that can go in the oven. So you don't want one with a plastic handle, because if you put the whole pan in the oven, the handle will melt. And you want a heavy pan if you have one. If you don't have one, that's okay. It's still doable. But a nice heavy pan, it gives you a more even heat. So a heavy stainless steel pan or a cast iron pan are better for these kinds of things. And so we're gonna heat up our pan. So I've turned it on our gas element. I've turned it to high just to get the pan warm. And then I'm gonna turn it down to medium high. On your electric stove, I'd probably put it to just higher than medium, but you really wanna make sure your pan's hot. And you also really wanna turn your fan on because searing steak gets a little smoky. And if you have a sensitive smoke detector like I do in my apartment, if you don't put the fan on, it will go off. And then I stand there with a pillow and fan it. I don't have a hood fan in my house, so this just is part of cooking. So you can see there's a little bit of water on the top. It's good, and it's kind of oozed out a little bit of the juice. We're not gonna do anything else to it. We're just gonna let it hang out until my pan's hot enough. It's such a thick cut of meat. We're actually going to use a thermometer, and we're gonna pull it out when it hits 130 degrees Fahrenheit. And then when it's resting, it's gonna go up to 135 because it's gonna keep cooking a little bit as it's resting. If you have a thinner steak, you're always welcome to use a thermometer. But I will show you what I was taught in how to tell by feeling it, how to tell what temperature it is. So you take your hand and the fleshy part of your thumb. So if you poke it, well, it's kind of relaxed. It's quite, you can push it in. So that's when it's sort of raw. So it's like, yeah, you can push it in, Now, when it's rare, we're gonna put our index finger to our thumb, and you can feel that it's still quite pushy, but it has a little bit of resistance. Now we're gonna put our middle finger to our thumb, and you can feel that it's a little bit more, you can feel the muscle tightening more, and that's sort of medium rare. And then medium, mid-well, well is when it's like super tight, you can't poke it, you can just really, you can just feel the muscle. And that's sort of the way that I was taught how to tell by touching the steak what temperature it was. Hot, so I'm gonna take a neutral oil. We're using canola. We're gonna put some in the pan. You can use any neutral oil that you have. And then we're gonna take our steak. We wanna make sure that the oil's hot. And yep, we can see that it is smoking, so yep, it's hot. And now we're gonna take the fat side and we're gonna put it down first. So when I put something in a pan, I like to tilt the oil forward, away from myself, so that when I put it in the pan, it's not gonna splash back at me. So we're gonna do that. And then I'm gonna take my trusty tongs, I'm gonna kind of fold it. And then I'm gonna get the oil around it. And we're just gonna kind of let that hang out for a second. The tenderloin part of your steak is going to cook a little bit faster because it's smaller. So whatever temperature you want your steak to be, if you want most of it to be the rare, you want to take the temperature of this side, and then this was always going to be a little bit more done. So you can kind of control how you want it. But usually there's someone who wants their steak a little bit more done, so that kind of works out. All right. So as you can see, she's smoky. So now when I'm flipping it, I'm gonna do the same thing where I tilt the oil. Oh, look at that sear. Yum. Gonna get the top of that. We're gonna flip it over again. And now we are going to throw it in the oven. All right, well, that is cooking. We've got everything ready. We are going to mix our salad. So we've got all our veggies in there. So I want to take some salt. I want to salt our veggies. We're gonna mix it up. Got some pepper, you can add some pepper. And we are going to these beautiful greens. And 3/4. We're gonna save some of those greens for our sandwiches for tomorrow. So we're gonna do this an old school French way. So we are going to, instead of having the oil and the base with the lemon juice and the mustard together, we're gonna take some olive oil, lovely extra virgin olive oil if you have it. If not, no worries. And we're going to coat maybe like 2-3 tablespoons. And we're just gonna mix it up. So the olive oil is gonna coat the leaves. As olive oil and water don't mix, So it's gonna kind of create a little protective barrier to the lettuce. And when we add our, we're gonna add some of this, our lemon and mustard mix, then it's not gonna wilt as fast because it's got that nice barrier protecting it from the acid that's in the base that would wilt it faster. So it's a nice way to make a quick vinaigrette. And whatever you don't use, you can use later. Hey, get back in there. Yeah. Yum. Got our steak out. We're gonna keep using this. And remembering that this pan handle is hot because it's been in the oven, we are going to turn to high, medium high, and we're gonna add our shallots and garlic. And they're gonna cook in this, all the nice bits that come from the steak and the fat of the steak. See, they really get beefy. And once I feel like it's at its maximum heat, then I'm gonna add me the mushrooms. All right, mushrooms, a little bit of salt. Mushrooms are full of water, but they also absorb oil. So you can see the pan looks almost like dry. The mushrooms absorbed it. But as they cook, they're gonna release the water that and the oil that they've taken in. Now I've got this beautiful piece of Saint-Agur blue cheese. If you don't like blue, that's okay. You can use another kind of cheese that melts nicely. And we are gonna put it on top of our delicious steak. All right, we've got some nice color going on our mushrooms, so I'm gonna add the red peppers now. I don't like my red peppers super soft, so I don't want them to be super cooked down. But if you like them that way, then you can leave them in here longer, or you can put them in earlier. If you were having a glass of red wine, you could add a little splash, one for you, one for the pan. I'm gonna add a little splash of water. It's gonna help soften the peppers a little bit faster. Now that our steak has rested, let's take it off the bone. If you just had T-bones that were, this big, just put the whole thing on top. But since we have this marvelous monster, we're gonna take it off the bone. So we are not gonna get rid of this bone. This bone is gonna make some stock. There's some good stuff hanging out there. So you can see this one, the grain is moving up and down this way. So when we cut, we want to cut against that. There we go. Now I got this lovely sea salt from Jacobson's. Gonna add our mushrooms and peppers and our veggies. This is all going to be leftovers. And there we have it. Beautiful steak dinner. Since we couldn't eat all of that meat in one sitting, we're going to make a sandwich. Got these beautiful scones from the Scone Witch. We're gonna cut it in half. Oh, I got some pretty cool condiments. My friend Sarah Pishva makes this jelly, top shelf preserves. So we're gonna put this red pepper jelly on one side. Now we got some nice beer and chipotle mustard we're gonna put on the other side. And we've got this beautiful smoked cheddar and our lovely steak. So I'm gonna make this a cold sandwich, but you could make it a hot sandwich. Just wanna cut it nice and thin against the grain. And we're gonna cut some of this cheddar. Gonna take some of that nice crunchy salt. To me, steak has to have crunchy salt. That's just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're gonna add some of this cheddar, some of the lettuce that we have. Yeah. There we go. I got a beautiful steak sandwich for the next day on a scone. Oh yeah. That's really good. There's tons and tons of condiments at both the Scone-Wich and Mucklestones and Jacobson's and the Buzz. Everybody's got all sorts of wonderful condiments, so mix it up. So, thanks for watching this episode on Beechwood and all the beautiful shops that we have there. We have a luxurious dinner with big steak, a nice light salad, some blue cheese, and some sauteed mushrooms, and all these gorgeous desserts, and then an awesome steak sandwich on a Scone-Wich scone for lunch the next day. So thanks so much for watching Scrap Cooking. We can't wait to get back to our regular programming where I show you how to use all the trim that we've been saving. And you guys have a great night, and I can't wait to see you next time.